Hello everyone. Hi boys and girls. This is lesson number 6. And today we talk about the author T.S.Eliot, Thomas Stern Eliot, who was born in Missouri, so he was an American citizen. He studied philosophy at the Sorbonne in Paris and at Harvard as well, where he graduated. In 1914, he moved to London, to Europe, where he got married. In London, he met the poet Ezra Pound, who was the founder of the Images movement. And Ezra Pound had a great influence on his work. He did a variety of jobs because he couldn't earn money as a poet. And he was also editor and director of a publishing house in London. He became a British citizen in 1927 and he converted to Anglicanism. After his conversion, his poetry changed, became more orientated towards religion. He wrote poetry, plays, and also critical works. Remarried again in 1957, and after his second marriage, his personal happiness increased his poetry. His poetry changed, became more optimistic and less austere. He died in London in 1965. And remember that he was also awarded the Nobel Prize of Literature in 1948. His main works are the love song of Alfred Prufrock, The Wasteland, which is considered one of the most outstanding works of modernism, together with Ulysses by Joyce, Murder in the Cathedral, and Four Quartets. He was deeply influenced by the French symbolist poets Rimbaud, Verlaine, and Baudelaire, who mixed elements of sensuousness and intellectualism. He created a new and unique form of poetry. So even though at the beginning of his career his poetry was deeply influenced by symbolism, afterwards in his works, the song of Alfred Prufrock and also in The Wasteland, he changed style, he changed tone, and he created a personal form of poetry. He is considered one of the most dominating poetic figure of the Anglo-Saxon world. Obviously, we are talking about last century. The elements, the features of his poetry are this innovative language and a fusion of intellectual and emotional elements. So remember, you have a sheet, a map of symbolism and free verse. So remember that the most common elements of the symbolist poetry are the use of quotation and free verse, importance of the sound of the words, open interpretation, allusive language, and multiple association of words. The symbolists, of course, we are talking about the French poets, Baudelaire, Verlaine, Rimbaud. They stressed the importance of the unconscious and the use of images, as images did as well. They used images to evoke rather than to state. Ideas were presented in an oblique way, and they used free verse, so there was absence of metrical regularity. they used this free verse to exploit the sound and musicality of words. You have got also another map, another sheet on images. So the most common elements of images are, again, free verse, absence of metrical regularity, the use of art, clear, precise images. They created images as they were painters for rendering an exact idea of what they wanted to say, to express. Use of the right word. They aimed at precision, discipline, artness. They didn't provide any moral or personal comment. So now we can move to the wasteland. The wasteland, you find the wasteland at page 374 of the cornerstone. So as I said before, the wasteland is the most famous poem written by T.S.Eliot, but also the most famous work, together with the Ulysses by Joyce, of the modernist literature. Is divided into 5 sections. It is dedicated to Ezra Pound, who revised and edited it. These 4 sections correspond to the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. It is a long and complex poem, and Eliot uses a wide range of references, different cultures, different literatures, and different languages. It is the expression of the personal and global crisis of man in the 20th century. So there was no room for hope, for faith. There is the absence of faith. So Eliot's vision of the modern world is desolate. It is the modern world. It was for him a desolate land. There was spiritual aridity, empty lives, and there wasn't any significant values or meaning. There were many images, from classical literature to myths, popular culture, and modern life. And there were also many different styles and tones. He provided images of a fragmented and insecure world, because the last century man, it is insecure. So it was basically the expression of this global crisis. Remember that we are at the beginning of the last century, and there was a global and personal crisis that brought to the First and then the Second World War. Talking about the wasteland, the passage you're going to read, page 375, is from the 3rd section of the work, that is called the Fire Sermon. Interior monologue is used, and at the beginning there is a figure, Tiresias, who was an ancient Greek prophet. He is the speaker. They are in London, so this unreal city is London. And London is the symbol of every modern city. Tiresias witnesses the scene in which we see two figures, two characters, a young woman and her lover. They are meeting on a date, and they are both victims of the monotonous daily routine of modern life. This modern life, this crisis, has reduced all humans to machines, so they are incapable of enjoying, of love, of empathy. So they leave the intimacy of love making with, uh, with no passion, with no love at all. So at page 375, you have an excerpt of The Wasteland, and please revise the two sheets I gave you on symbolism and on images. And remember the preface to Images Poets, page 328. Remember that this movement was founded by Ezra Pound, and the most common elements, the most common features of this movement are language of common speech, so a colloquial style, colloquial tone. They always use the exact word for rendering the idea they wanted to transmit. Free verse, that was the symbol of liberty, of freedom. They believe that the individuality of a poet is expressed by free verse. So no conventional forms. They didn't use any conventional forms. Absolute freedom in the choice of subject. They just wanted to present images as they were painters. So poetry should render particulars. The poetry should produce art, clear and precise images.